Sponsored by the Dunleary Rattown Local Enterprise Office. You're listening to Business Eye on Dublin South FM.
Yes, folks, and welcome back to Friday. The kids are back in school. We're all delighted. We're all having so much fun saying goodbye to our children and being able to sit back in our own little pods, having our cup of coffee in silence. It's great, but it's sad. I miss my children already. I do indeed. But the good news is Irish radio is making a storm. Here in Ireland, we've got about 86% of people are listening to the radio on a daily basis. The listeners are up, people are tuning in, and they're listening more to radio now than they are to YouTube or podcast. So, for all the listeners out there who are tuned in on their FM radio, thanks for listening in. What do you think of that, Simon?
Oh, that's great. And I was just thinking, you mentioned it's September already. Starbucks cinnamon latte should be in soon for Halloween, and then you mentioned the radio thing. I'm wondering if ministers will stop deleting their texts and start listening to radio, Joe. What do you reckon?
Well, I wish I had a big red delete button for our ministers that we could delete them. It's a funny old show out there, Simon, at the moment, the political system, and unfortunately, we have allowed them to get away with it. And here's something that freaked me out, Simon, the other day that I saw in, this whole COVID bill and COVID passing laws they were making. In one of them, they are saying they can actually take your house from you if they want to. So, but you didn't know that. Stuck in the very back, down the back of one of their acts or their amendments on it. And someone said to me, have you seen this? And I said, yes. I said, it has nothing to do with COVID or lockdown, but they squeezed it in. And if we don't ask questions, they get away with it. But hey, it's Friday. Life is good. I've just had my coffee and we're ready to kick off. Who have we got today, Simon? Who have we today?
So we have somebody I've seen on social media for the last four years, and I've heard just nothing but great things. A guy by the name of Howard Hughes, and I think we'll ask Howard to introduce who he is and what he does. Welcome, Howard.
Yeah, my name is Howard. I'm in the realm of personal development. It's I retail personal development education and live seminars. Basically, I'm in sales. I do lead generation. I do prospecting. And I'm a product of the product, hence my interest in personal development. I'm also a Firewalk instructor, which means I literally take people across hot coals, anywhere from 400 to 500 degrees centigrade. And it's about a 2 hour thing that I do with them to raise their chi or their noom, their body essence, let's say their spirit, in order to be able to walk across this. And I smile quietly to myself as I look at the scientific reasoning behind coal being a poor conductor. And you kind of go, okay, well, that might be fair enough, maybe in a 6-foot firewalk or a 12-foot firewalk. But what about a 40-foot firewalk or a 20-foot firewalk? We were walking across these non-conducting coals, heat-conducting coals in your bare feet. So for me, it's the firewalking was to put the action into the theory, right? We all know how to lose weight. We all know how to do press-ups, sit-ups, crunches. And yet obesity is one of the big killers at the moment. So it's not just knowledge. There's no lack of knowledge. There's books. There's libraries full of books around the world. It's that little gap between knowing and actually taking the action. That's where people, that hurdle, that grand national hurdle that people seem to fall over. So when I do the firewalks, it really is, you can theorize all you want about overcoming fear, but trust me, when you're standing in front of coals in bare feet, as Tyson said, everyone has a plan till they get a punch in the face.
Listen, we read a lot, but it's actually putting that into practice. And I think you're spot on there. I think we read and read and read and read and read, but we are fearful. We are fearful to put it into practice. What do you think, Simon?
No, I agree. I talk about mindset on the one hand and mindfulness on the other. And mindset is easy. It's easy to say, right, I'm going to walk along those coals with Howard tomorrow, right? But when tomorrow comes and you've got to put your foot on it, mindfulness is the ability to sustain that mindset, to say, right, I'm going to fight through it. And I think so many people, myself included, over the years have been a coward with, sustaining things. But it's only when you sustain things and then look back, do you really kind of grow, I think, Howard. So how did this start, Howard? Why coals?
Wow. Okay. It's why coals? It's I actually met a guy online up in Northern Ireland who did it originally, and had him down here a few years ago to do it. It's the action part of the theory. I can tell you how good you are, how powerful you are, or whatever. Yeah. But unless you take the actions, okay, now you got me. Right. This is why. Why do we not start new projects? We start new projects because we leave too many loose ends, right? We don't have closure on too many items. Yeah. And we have too many tabs open in our brains of things that are ongoing. So we are usually procrastinating or reluctant to take up a new challenge because we don't have bona fides information on completed projects, right? Yeah. And then all of a sudden it's theory. And as you know, the greatest gift of fear is to have that blank space in your mind of unknowingness. What's going to happen next? Yeah. Okay. So why the codes? It's the action. It's the closure. It's the feeling of closure to say I did it. To be able to look at your certificate of completion that I give to people when they do it. That when they need to look, when they need to draw on that strength, when they need to cross that threshold, that activation energy, they know they can do it. It's a transferable skill, from firewalking to whatever. And more recently myself, the biggest challenge for me was when I was doing the firewalking instruction over in Switzerland. And the biggest challenge was the Solo Firewalk, right? Everyone walked away. There were the coals. And they said, it's up to you. You can walk across the coals or not walk across the road. Only you will ever know if this happened. Yeah. We're going back to the cabin. So it was me in my own in the Alps, about to walk across maybe a 6-foot firewalk. Yeah. I had to really draw deep inside myself in order to do that. Yeah. And that was amazing. And I can draw on that now anytime I come up with kind of fearful situations.
That's powerful. No, that explains it to me. Oh, sorry, Joe. Yeah,
no, it's like reconnecting to your spirit within. And you need that sort of leap of faith as well. And we all what are the lessons that people are learning? And I know you've spoke there about, procrastination or people hitting walls and not being able to continue on. What does it do to the person themselves that have achieved this for later life? Or is it just a certificate on the wall and says I've done it and move on? Have you noticed massive changes in people after they've done it?
Yes. And pretty shortly afterwards, right? There's an amazing sense of peace that comes over people, right? Once they've completed this, because not only is it a physical, amazing thing that you've done, right? It also smashes through a lot of your previous beliefs and misconceptions and your programming. Okay, there's an amazing release of freedom. People cry because they know that they've been released from this mental jail that they've put themselves in, and it's beautiful to be there for that. But once you've done that, once you've broken past, once you know that you are the jailer and also hold the key, then there's an amazing freedom that just explodes, because you lift people higher and higher and higher till they are able to perform this amazing feat that they never thought they were able to do. And apologies for the pun there with feet, being a firewalk, but it's just amazing. It's lovely, and I have plans to do maybe something for September, October. We'll see. Wow. But again, let me say this, Joe. You and I have known each other and spoken with each other in the background, and Simon, I know you'll appreciate that. I appreciate what I'm about to say. You have to give yourself up to a higher self. There has to be something more than yourself, right? Not the small eye of the ego, right?
Yeah.
You have to pull yourself up and above and beyond. And that's the realm that you go into. The trap is the ego self, the small self,
exactly,
right? And what happens is then, once you surrender to the misconceptions and the trap and the drama of the ego, you get in touch with the higher self, the capital S, yeah. And that's the realm, the field of infinite potentiality. And that's really the place, yeah.
It's like Joe Dispenza would talk about that, about, when you're stepping into the quantum field, you know, and experiencing that when everything else, as we know, strips apart, and all you have is just you looking at you with nothing else around you, completeness. And self-development, I think when people think of self-development as well, they think of all the fluffy things. Oh, look, you go for the walk, or you do this, or you write stuff out on a pad and it makes you feel better. And, well, I think as we go along and get wiser, and as we develop in our own worlds, for me, I believe that it's more inner. It's really, self-development is truly inner peace. But it's also taking full responsibility for your own actions, for everything that you see in this world. And as we know, everything that you see outside is a reflection of what's in you inside. And if you can change that, which you're doing, which I believe it's doing with that self-development and walking, it's making people a lot happier and comfortable with what they have, instead of what they want to have or think they need to have.
Yeah.
So, Simon.
Yeah, no, I mean, Howard's said some really profound stuff, and I identify. I mean, I gave up alcohol a number of years ago, and I struggled because I didn't want to, but I got to the stage where I had to, and so I went through this journey of handing it over to a higher power. And then seeing what unfolded, and getting rid of that ego, or handing that ego over, and becoming pretty completely vulnerable, right? Which is the hardest thing to do, right? It's the hardest thing to do. And in the last year and a half, in particular, things have been coming into my world. I believe that the universe is watching, right? Sometimes you do get taken advantage of. Sometimes you do get bullied. But generally speaking, if you hand it over and you float across the ocean of vulnerability, positive things will come back. And I'm experiencing those myself. And, doing this show with you, Joe, is one of those. I pushed against it for a while. And then I thought, well, go with it, and the most profound thing you said, Howard, was, and I'll summarize it like this: most people don't do things because they've got too much clutter, and that clutter and that self-prejudice and those limiting beliefs holds them back from doing it. And so, in my experience, the body needs to go first, and then the mind will follow. And that's what I'm hearing from you, Howard. And it will follow if it sees the body going first.
George, you're after, that's perfect. That's exactly it. Exactly it. And it's that as I call it, the activation energy. And I always picture myself as, imagine you are doing a parachute jump.
Yeah.
The only thing you need to do on a parachute jump is take that one step off the edge, and gravity will take care of the rest. Right? And that's it. And that's the same thing with the firewalk. You just have to take that one step, and by golly, yes, your brain is going to catch up. Your mind is going to catch up. You're right. 5 seconds, you lift your foot, you put your foot down, right? That's all you have to do with the Firewalk. And then the rest.
Yeah, for me, like I would do Firewalk before I jump off a plane, because if I do Firewalk, I could burn my foot. If I jump off a plane and something goes wrong, I'll get squashed.
Yeah, I think I could do a Firewalk on a handstand, but jumping off the plane scares them. I've got a tingly feeling just thinking about jumping.
Even watching, do you know those YouTube videos of people cycling along with the cliff? I'll ask you both this then, and Howard, you can answer this question. How do people, Simon mentioned there that, a lot of clutter that goes on in people's heads and everything and all. Like, how do people really, really let go?
Goal setting. It's not necessarily about, necessarily about reaching the goal, but it's about who you become as you go for it. It's about decision. And the goal has to have that gravitational pull that is going to pull you through the atmosphere of fear. If I'm making sense, if a rocket's taken off from the Earth, right? It needs a lot of thrust to escape the gravitational pull, right? It's the same with your goals. Your goal has to have the pull that's going to take you out of the gravitational pull of fear. It's got to be bigger than fear itself. Yeah. And it's easily done. Now, I journal daily, right? Because the program that I do, as I said, is there's a load of questions, there's a load of exercises that start getting you out of a frame of mind that we're all programmed to be in. And I find that when I journal, and I just do a mind dump, that stuff comes up that I look at and go, Jesus, wow, was I really thinking that or whatever? If you ask a question, there's a great, I don't know if you've read The 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
His last one then is he talks about, he gets the present of this light pen. But what he just does is he asks a question, right? And one of the concepts in the program that I have is the concept of the future self, right? It's like Dickens, the Christmas future. This person that is all that you could be, but you aren't yet, is actually your guide in life. It's your best buddy. So you can literally sit down and have a conversation with yourself and go, Howard, how did I overcome the fear of what other people think? Now, F me, right? That's in itself just to pose that question. But you already know the answer. You stopped it by, you take a little goal of, not wearing a mask into a shop, right? Because you have a reasonable excuse or something like that, right? That might be a lot for someone. But you take a little goal and you do it and you count your win. So now you've got a little win bank, right? Yeah. You can go back and refer to, especially when you're journaling. Yeah. Sundays is my day to look back at what I've journaled and I read what I've done. I count my wins, I count my gratitudes. I read my mind. I have my what's called a future self chat, where I have a chat with my future self. And I read what I've written, because not only will your future self thank you for it, but you have an obligation to your past self, who has these high expectations of you, right? If you went back to yourself as a kid and said, if your kid asked you, well, how do we do, Howard? What do I say to that kid, to that 12-year-old? How did we do, Howard? Oh, geez, good thought of that. How'd you explain to that 12-year-old kid how you did?
Yeah. Howard, would you say, what I'm hearing is the importance of honesty. There's a really, really good book, the best book I think I've ever read, called Into the Magic Shop by an American neurosurgeon. It's a true story of his life. He came from a broken family and he went into a magic shop as a kid, And this old lady said, if you come back every day for the summer, I'll teach you magic. And she didn't teach him magic, but she taught him the 4 secrets to that non-egotistical aligned life. And the 2 are obvious. Find ways to relax your mind, find ways to relax your body. The 4th one is exactly what you said, goal set. But the 3rd one was, before you goal set, get truly honest with who you are and what you want. And I think that for me is a key. And it sounds like you've been through that journey. I do something similar when I work with people. I say, think about where you are in 3 years and you're a success in 3 years' time. What has to have happened in the last 3 years for you to have got there? And I keep reinforcing that. And it forces people to get either honest or they run away. It's honesty. It's honesty.
Yeah, and it's an honest inventory of who you are.
Yeah.
The great thing is that you don't have to. One of the concepts, which sounds simple, but that I wrestle with from time to time. Wrestle might be sound strong. Is don't to be your past. Right? You can actually, every day is a blank page for you to restart. But your ego mind is very fond of letting you know the mistakes you made.
And that was the other thing I was going to say. For me, the importance is let go of resentments to others. And probably most important is, you kind of said, they're resentments against yourself, right? Resentments are a complete and utter waste of time. The person you're resentful to doesn't know you are. And if you're resentful yourself, it's holding you back.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And there's no justification for it. It's another great teacher for me through his books was a guy called Dr. David R. Hawkins. And you find some of his videos on YouTube. And he goes, well, that's happened, right? You can't change it.
Yeah.
What are you hanging on to?
Yeah.
Right? It's no matter how resentful you become or how angry, that's not going to change what happened with the incident.
Exactly.
And it's just, go ahead.
Yeah, Joe's being very pensive there.
Everything is a big deal in your own head. You know, as both of you said there, something might have done something, or something might have happened in your world. It's only playing out in your world, in your head. It's not affecting that other person or the other people, that are in your world. And once you realize, or if you're trying to hold something back, or you want to say something, you're playing it. And then when you discover that you get through it, it wasn't a big deal. In the end, it was just, oh my God, why was I stressed, or why is I worried about that? I think we're all. I'm going through this thing at the moment, and both of you know it. That it's all about really courage and truth. What life is about. It's about that expression of being able to say what you feel and do. Having that courage and having the faith as well to know that you're doing the right thing, and not be nasty about anyone. It's do not be nasty to anyone else, and not rob anyone else's property. Like if we lived that life in ourselves and around us, it would be grand. But the one thing why I just going back to about letting go, I think it is that letting go is like a tide. You will let go, it'll come in, it'll go out, and then you'll come to another part. Like, I don't think people will just let go and that's it. I've let go now, wonderful, my life is wonderful. It's that process. And you have to realize that's the process, and it's surrendering. And it's out of everything in this world, I think it's the hardest thing to actually accept, acknowledge, and do, because your ego is there feeding it, and you have to kind of go, take that breath and go, what is the worst thing can happen if I let go? And what is the worst thing that can happen? Wasn't really a big thing in your head anyway.
No.
Yeah.
No, I agree. It's amazing, So I was speaking to an academic from Croatia a couple of weeks ago, And she wrote an amazing article. And basically the article was, humans are born authentic, right? But once we get through school years in particular, you mentioned your kids going back to school, the brainwashing and whatever goes on at school. And in our 20s, we get into work. We lose that authenticity and we get sucked into this world of expectation. And that's why so many people fall by the wayside, or they become addicts, or they become greedy, or they get consumed by ego. And then it seems to be those fortunate ones, and I think the three of us are very similar. I don't know where you got this awakening, Howard, but clearly there was a reason that you became awake, like Joe and I. And we're the lucky ones, right? But there are plenty who don't. And that's powerful. If only we could find a way to get back to that authentic self. If you could bottle that, that would be amazing for humanity. What do you think, Howard?
Yeah, look, I agree with you. And again, going back to Joe's notion of surrender, and this is something that I kicked about a lot, right? What I would like to happen would be for people to wake up. But if I am surrendering to what's happening, all I can do is inform people, and if they want to come on board, you know, I've said this kind of from the start. Not everyone's going to make it onto the ark, right? In fact, the majority of people won't make it onto the ark, right? And there is a very specific profile of people who are awake at the moment, Simon, and they are people who are in the personal development industry and field. They are spiritual people, and a lot of them actually are self-employed as well, which and their hobbies include flying and karate or martial arts, right? I know this sounds funny, but these are all, I think flying, right, or learning to fly is very much a subconscious attempt to get back to that spiritual realm for people. And I certainly believe that if you are engaged in martial arts, that the moving of the chi around the body, or whatever, the ki around the body, as it happens in Tai Chi or Tai Chi, is very much, again, a spiritual activity. So it'll be interesting to see. There's a lot of self-employed people, a lot of spiritual people, and a lot of people who are engaged in, let's say,
one of the things there, when you're talking about that, the spiritual and the martial arts, if you look up what the Zen monks would do, that's really, they're tapping into that. As a very good friend said to me, when you're going through this process, it's the breath, it's the silence between the breath. So, it's breathing, holding your breath, and then breathing out. It's the gap between the breath. And I think with self-development and people letting go and the way the world is at the moment, I think it's more and more people need to really sort of feel that comfortable within themselves, because you can't keep looking for those leaders, those white knights on the big white horse to save you. The only person that can save you, your spirit, in your business, in your life, is you. And I think, this has been a great talk as well, just for if anyone that wants to or is on that journey in the very beginning to realize, we've all been there and we're still there.
So if I could just say, Joe, and this has always caused me a smile during this scenario, what's going on, certainly from my point of view, is that, do you remember the plagues of Israel or Egypt that Moses sent?
Yeah.
The locusts came in. I mean, there must have been farmers trying to stop the locusts coming in to eat their farm, And from our point of view, this was Moses, and God was doing something to prove his might. But there was people trying to stop God proving his might. Do you understand? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, everything.
People trying to stop the locusts, and
everything is in balance. Everything is in balance.
Yeah. So
that's exactly what I thought this morning when I saw the videos of the subways in the States, like rivers. I mean, you can try as you might like, but it's going to get in there.
Yeah.
On it.
Look after yourself.
Exactly.
Howard, Howard, if someone wants to reach out to you, where can they connect with yourself?
LinkedIn or Facebook. LinkedIn, business-wise, absolutely. My number is 0877443003. So that's 0877443003, or howardmjhughes@gmail.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Howard, thanks for coming on.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for the invite. And it's been a real great connection and a great chat. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Howard. Thank you.
Talk to you later.
Sponsored by the Dunleary Rattown Local Enterprise Office. You're listening to Business Eye on Dublin South FM.
What do you think of that, Simon?
That was one of my favourite chats of the year and a half with you.
You say that every week, though.
No, that was. I actually can't think of a better one. So sorry to all the people who came before, but Howard just summed up. Howard was basically talking like exactly how I think. I've never met him before, for any listeners out there. Never met him before. Never even connected with him on LinkedIn because I can't. And yet he sums it up. It's all about, surrender, letting go of ego. And then he finished, and as you say, it's about minding yourself, because nobody else is going to mind us, Even the higher power is busy, right? The higher power is busy trying to sort all this mess out.
Well, if you want to go the higher power of source, they don't get source does not get involved.
No.
It is free will. And only when you ask, the teacher will show up. That's what,
Yeah.
And when the wisdom is done, the teacher will leave. And that's just how life goes. But I think I think people really have to sort of go within, because there's no answers out there. As I did in my TED talk, it's, when you realize what's going on within, nothing out there matters. Nothing out there matters at all.
No, exactly. I can't really add much to this because it's just so powerful. And you just got to let it go. You just got to let it go.
Let it go. Well, Simon, the weekend.
Yeah,
we're here. It's
Thank
Friday.
Goodness it's the weekend.
Coffees and cake and a bit of sunshine. And you know what we did? We bought the kids we got all board games in, and we got loads of stuff for them to taking them away from the tablets and getting them more in the creative mind. So I'll be gamed out on the weekend, gamed out. So
that's great.
Until next week, folks. Thank you for tuning in to myself and Simon, and we will talk later. Take care.
Thank you.